So what's the Grape Explorer talking about today? Well, everybody knows that I'm very passionate about Italian wines, but I do have a history behind that. And I did want to explain, and we are featuring a wine today that actually comes from my past. So I bring up the past, present, and future, but we're going to talk about the past. And this wine is called Amarone. And Amarone is one of my favorite wines. I know it's favorite wines of many, many people, but I think it's a misunderstood wine, and I don't think a lot of people really understand that. So we're going to kind of dive in and try to explain a little bit about not only Amarone, but the region that it comes from. And we broke out this map of Italy, as we always do. And when I point this out, we are talking northeast Italy, and right in this area right here is called Valpolicella, and Verona is quite close by. And then you've got Lake Garda here, and I'm going to explain Lake Garda in a second, but I just didn't want to point this out on the map that it's Valpolicella, and you can clearly see this. So when you see a bottle of Amarone, it will say Amarone della Valpolicella. But I wanted to talk about Amarone and the grapes that are here because we have the Grape Explorer. So most of the grapes in the production of Amarone are Corvina. That represents about 45 to 95%. And then you have also Rondinella, which is 5 to 30%. These are the grapes that are approved by what's called the DOCG and denomination. And you can see that this wine has now a status of DOCG because in 1990, they were actually granted a DOC status. And then it was also in 2008, in 2009, they were granted what is called DOCG, which is the highest category of Italian wines, what we call the denomination of original guarantee. But not all Amarones are the same, and not all Amarones aspire to be the same. So one of the greatest books, of course, and I always bring this out for Italian wines, is the Sheldon and Pauline Wasserman book. And you can see right here that they designate a zone which is considered the area for Amarone production. And I'm going to give a little bit of a brief history. I would travel to Italy many times because I would always go to the wine fair there looking for producers. And of course, I was in Verona one year, so tried to make my reservation in Verona. It was impossible because you've got to book almost like a year in advance or even 6 months in advance to get a hotel in Verona. And then I had some friends say, if you want to stay in a really, really nice area outside of Verona, very close to the show, you go to Lake Garda. So I said, okay. So I booked a nice hotel that was actually on the lake. And, I'm landing in Milan airport. So I'm coming. It was very, very late at night. I'm getting into my hotel. I could not see a thing. It was very, very dark. Wasn't lit too well for me. So, very exhausted, get into bed, wake up the next morning, come out of my hotel room. What do I see? Lake Garda in front of me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so beautiful. I'm glad that somebody actually told me about Lake Garda because, never been to this usual place. Usually I stay in Verona because it's quite close in proximity to this the fair that's always there in Italy. But then as I'm driving my car to go to Verona, I see two signs. One says Valpolicella this way and Bardolino that way. And I said, oh my God, I'm in the middle of Amarone territory. And yes, it's not a sign for Amarone, but all the producers make Amarone, and it's an actual style of wine. And it's quite unique to anything, not only in Italy, but actually the world, where what they try to do, and the minimum alcohol content of an Amarone, especially if it's DOCG, there are rules, has to be a minimum of 14%. That's kind of rare to even have a 14% Amarone. Sometimes they're touching 15 and 16. Well, why do they get such high alcohol? Well, what they do is they take the grapes traditionally, and it was always done where they would lay them out in straw mats and they would sun dry them to get this sugar content that would raise the alcohol levels. And of course, when you're raising the alcohol levels, you're doing that with the must as well. So becomes very, very full-bodied, very, very rich wine. And my first experience with this was traveling to Italy. I was in Venice. Actually, it was a family visit. But the funny thing of it is, I bought a bottle of wine. And guess what? It was a bottle of Amarone Bertani. It was 1979. And the guy that I bought it from was a wine shop in Venice. And what he told me to do, he said, do not drink this wine when you go home. You need to put this wine away, drink this wine in another 5 or 10 years, and it will create the magic. What's the magic? Well, the magic is the bouquet, because when you have this process that Amarone is made with, and you really want to smell top level, it's got a perfume to it, and it's usually almonds, and then you get dried figs, and you get scents of flowers. This is a traditional wine that you get these kind of scents. Very, very rare for Amarone style wines anywhere in the world. It only comes from this particular place. But I wanted to highlight this. One of my passions is Italian wines, and I love Amarone, and I love the fact that we can actually enjoy these wines in America. You can find, as I say, a lot, but there are a lot of great, great top-level producers. The prices are high, but the wines are worth it. Again, this is a Grape Explorer talking about great, great Italian wines.